Good afternoon, everyone. This is Toni Weel from, what is it? Not so sunny Florida. It's been raining here a lot, and my plants absolutely love it. We have with us today, as usual, Sara from Virtuous Unicorns. Thank you for being here again, Sara. And we have with us Gary Parent. I could not reach that, so I don't know what happened there. But I will find out soon, and he may pop in later. We have an hour difference, so sometimes it's a little confusing what noon is. Noon Florida time. Okay, we had a lot of questions that we talked about last week, and we have a few again today. But just before we started, we were talking about one of Gary's friends and how he needed a surgery, and that even Dr. Morse will tell you that it happens, that it is necessary. And unfortunately, his friend was not on all fruit, but he did other things for healing. And I would love Gary to talk about that a little bit more, and what the effects of Qigong is, because I've known about this for, oh my gosh, almost all my life, and even in at least going way back to the 70s. And it is quite amazing in what our body can do when we set our mind to that. And it's a daily lesson, even for myself. Oh yeah, and I know Sara, you have to leave just before 1 o'clock, so want to make sure that I give you some time to talk.
Thank you.
All right. So, Gary, go ahead. I would love to hear, and I think people who are listening would love to hear more about what the body can heal.
Anything.
There is that. He's here. Hi, Ted. I just did the introduction. Happy to see you here, as always.
Yes, hello guys. I'm here.
Oh, there you are. There you are. All right. Gary, go ahead.
So the body can heal anything. If it can degenerate, it can regenerate anything. So most of it is stress and worry and feeling like you've been backed into a corner. You don't have any way out, because the people that we go to for information are speaking a different language, and the words are like this long, and we don't have any idea what they mean. So it's scary in that way. Plus, their story is that you're going to be on these medications for the rest of your life, or you need surgery or whatever it is. Well, there's a lot of fear factor with that, and we carry that in us, that fear factor. And because we don't want to be sick, but it's the fact that we don't want to be sick that we're manifesting sickness into our life, many of us. So with my friend, I've actually, this is the second person I have spent the time with this year that have had massive head injuries. And one, I just, me and his sister got things squared away, and now I'm able to move on to my next friend who just had brain surgery. And there, I don't care how well you think you're taking care of yourself, things can go wrong. There can be accidents, there can things can grow in the body just because they're growing in the body, right? But it's not like, even though we feel we have control over them, if there's a fear inside us that we've even forgotten that we have, it will start to manifest it, because it's like a weird frequency, and we can't really feel it until it gets to the point where it's created a tumor or whatever the issue is that you're having, whether it's arthritis, which is dehydration, anything that ends in is acid. arthritis, gastritis, pancreatitis. These are all acids collecting in the body, and the cells are sitting there. They can't move. So they're being burned and burned into exhaustion. Okay. And those are the things we have to think of. And we need to get that acid out of there. And that's all in the lymphatic, the bathroom side of the body, the lymph. Okay. Think of the blood as the kitchen and the lymph as the bathroom. The blood is bringing nutrition, oxygen, and hydration to the cells. And those cells absorb, digest, and eliminate. And they're eliminating an acid. So what we eliminate is what they eliminate. Whether that's feces or urine, doesn't matter. It's all things that the body doesn't want anymore, so it pushes it to the outside, and all elimination channels push things out of the body, and through absorption, when the body's functioning properly, it absorbs what it wants and uses that to keep our body healthy. Well, if we get a little lymphatic congestion here or there, then, and it doesn't matter if it's in the brain, in the lungs, in the bones, it doesn't matter where it is, it's going to start to make the cells low voltage, weak, and they can't function properly. They can't reproduce properly. They can't even interact with the cells around them, let alone with the brain. And it can be a thing called apoptosis, where the cell destroys itself. So because it can't communicate, it feels isolated and alone. This is what happens to a lot of people, because we're just a walking cell. That's all we are. Well, when they start to go awry and you start to get a tumor in your head, you can't feel it. One of the ways that they check is the pineal gland, because it's in dead center between the two hemispheres of the cerebellum. And when you have a tumor, it pushes it one way or the other. And this is one way that they can tell if there's a mass growing in the head. Well, my friend had a mass, very large mass, and it was shutting down one side of his body. It was shutting down the ability to balance. And he's not much for doctors, neither am I, but came to a point where he's like, okay, I have to go take care of this. And I went to the hospital and they performed surgery. And this hand was very, 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 very weak, not functioning hardly at all. And within an hour, hour and a half after the surgery, this hand started to come back. It's only been, I think, 21 days. And he has almost like full access of everything. You know, he wasn't able to complete a sentence before the surgery and after the surgery, but and this is another thing, they sent him home on the second day after the surgery. I was like, it seems a little early to me, but the whole thing is to get you in, do what they have to do, and get you out to make room for the next person. So there's that whole thing too that the hospital has to deal with. But and I haven't been there for the whole 21 days. I've been there about 5, I think. And just that 5 days, the strength, the balance, the ability to speak, to communicate, to do things is like through the roof as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think the hand is 100%. Every day it gets stronger, you know, and the other day you can't get the scar wet. It's not a scar, it's a stitching. Can't get that wet. Not yet. As soon as it heals, we'll be all set. But we've already been swimming. I mean, it's mind-blowing to watch that unfold. Okay. So yes, there's a time that we need surgery, and those can be miraculous. I know when I was pronounced dead at the scene, and they brought me back, or I came back on my own. I don't even know. I was in a coma for 4 days. I lost some of my memory. and not to make this about me, but I've had a massive head injury. So for some reason, it pulls people with head injuries into my life. I'm just totally shocked at how fast the recovery is. Now, this particular tumor is like a spider tumor. So if they didn't get it all, it could start growing back. And I don't know if they can do another surgery or how many they can do. But this is what his doctor told him, and is exactly what he's doing. And I'm not going to interfere with that. And people will probably be mad at me because of it, but eat lots of protein, drink, and eat anything you want, as much sugar as you want. And we all know what those tumors feed on is sugar, man-made sugar. What helps to eliminate them is the sugar from fruits, berries, melons, and vegetables. And science has found a way to make man-made sugar equal to fruit sugars. And it's just not true. You know, I have a conductivity light, and I did it on the show here one time. So you have a light, and the light bulb is your body, and the glass has water in it. And I have the light bulb plugged into the wall, and there is a wire that runs through with two prongs. Those prongs, there's 110 volts right there. So if it's stuck in your arm, you'd electrocute yourself. Well, you can take that and put it in water. Will it generate energy? No, it will not. Not without minerals. And Toni and I was talking earlier about a lot of people feel fatigued when they're on fruit. Well, the fruit is a stripper, so it's putting a certain amount of stress on your body as it's cleaning, right? Because it takes energy to clean the cells, to clean the body. And if you're not adding breath with that, okay, those are the biggies right there. Proper hydration with life-giving liquids like fruits, berries, melons, and vegetables. Fruit smoothies, green smoothies, because green smoothies are builders. They build the body, where the fruit is I guess you call it a stripper or something. That it strips the congestion out of the body, leaving the cells healthy and clean. And the cleaner and healthier they are, the more energy they have, and they reproduce better. If it's at 100%, it'll reproduce a new cell at 100%. If it's 20%, it'll reproduce it at 20% of its normal function. And that's when dis-ease starts, because the energy is so low in the body. And this is where parasites live. They love low energy, and they love man-made sugar. And that's what cancer is. It's a fungus. That's why it's kind of whitish. And it's just waste. So to take that sterilized container, that's why the body put it in this little balloon-like thing, is it can put it in there and it's isolating it from the body. And then they go in and they do a biopsy. So you imagine taking a balloon and filling it full of water and punching a bunch of holes in it. It's going to leak out into the system. So that's why I'm not a big fan of biopsies. And I don't think that they find cancer in the lymph node. That's where it's supposed to be. It goes there and it dissolves it and pushes it out through one of the 13 channels of elimination, because our skin is our third kidney. So when we're having kidney troubles, usually we oversweat, because this is our third kidney. And if we're not sweating at all, then we have a lymphatic issue under the skin, and the kidneys are carrying the burden. So if the kidneys aren't filtering and pushing that waste out, you're causing a collection of these toxins in the body that the body cannot eliminate, and it takes energy to fight that acid. So it's really cool to be an observer in both those situations, because they're both completely different, even though both people had severe head injuries. My other friend was in an accident in 85, and it cut the top of his head almost off, and he has a drain, and so he has a lot of pain. Where my other friend has no pain. So it's two completely different situations. And I don't want to get too deep into it, because there should be some privacy here. But as an observer, to see these two things unfold before me and how they're unfolding is extremely important in helping people down the road figure out what to do and how to do it. So I'm kind of excited to start doing Qigong. Actually, at the camp, other people at the camp are joining in. So we have kind of a little class there, which is very cool. Because that's kind of my thing, is the breathing and the movement and the nutrition and hydration and oxygen, and because these are the things that make it go. You have hydration, nutrition, and oxygen. They're just sitting there.
You
To get them
mentioned,
go
yeah,
ahead.
Gary, you mentioned about a lady who came to your classes, Yuki Chang classes, who couldn't walk.
Yes. I'm trying to remember, because we have a lot of people who have a lot of leg issues. So if it was Lynn, Lynn
Well,
was frozen.
we just talked about it before
Oh,
we
okay.
opened
Yeah,
up
no.
live.
So, they carried her in from a hospice bed. And so the cool part of that is, in 5 classes, they kicked her out of class and took away her support. By the 7th class, she was driving us all back and forth. In 6 weeks of classes, and we had classes 3 days a week then, we only have it 2 now. She passed her 3-wheel motorcycle permit test. Her ankles were so big that she wouldn't wear shorts anymore, and they told her if she was anorexic, those legs would never go down. Within a couple of weeks, her legs were back to normal size. And she was part of a biker church, so she was little, but she was a spitfire, say the least. And she was hemorrhaging from her lungs for 14 and a half years. And within weeks, all hemorrhaging stopped. I mean, this is how powerful we are. These are all frequencies. And when we get above that frequency, it can no longer exist. It has to go away. This finger had collapsed on her hand. And I have pictures of all this. So this is an electrical issue. This finger collapsed. And about 3 weeks into it, she came in and she goes, look, now there've been over 14 years that I've been down. Oh, it was like that. And those things, when I see those, I don't do those things. Like, okay, let's say I see somebody, I'm going to do 50 push-ups for you. Well, they get no benefit from it. I'm just a guide. They do the work, they get the results. And the results that we have are unbelievable. I mean, like mind-blowing, unbelievable, like humbling, like, doctors see it as miracles. We see it as just part of living. But I think I'm going to stop talking here so Sara can talk, because I know she has to leave before 1.
Yeah.
No, I mean, please don't stop. I mean, this is all very interesting stuff. My only part that I can add to this is, like, I definitely believe that if it can degenerate, it can regenerate. And like the stuff with our teeth, the rebuilding of enamel, the video that we all witnessed, what was it, last year, or even I'm bad with time, so either last year or the year before, where Dr. Morse was posting all the videos about how they were regrowing the toe. And not only did they regrow the toe, but they, I don't know if we're allowed to use the word cured, but the gentleman no longer is showing signs of diabetes. The toe actually kicked out the old bone and then has been regenerating, and the skin came back. And I mean, just it's amazing if we give our bodies I want to say like the nourishment of what it really truly needs. But I believe that our bodies do the own regeneration itself. Yes, we do rely on the fruits and things like that for our hydrations and, to keep everything kind of moist and liquidy so it moves through our bodies quickly. But it's really our body that heals itself. It's not at least from what I believe, it's not the fruit that actually heals, but the fruit gives us enough liquid and, I don't even want to use the word energy, to sustain us while our body is able to regenerate. So again, if all of our little factory workers are in their appropriate places where they're supposed to be working and able to be regenerating and doing what they're supposed to be doing instead of down in our digestive area, I've said it a bunch of times now. I mean, think about like, you're working at a grocery store or something, and all of a sudden this big giant truck comes every single night, and everybody has to leave their grocery store duties and go and unload this truck. So when you come back to the grocery area, all the aisles are, there's stuff laying in the aisles, nothing got put away that night or anything because everybody was unloading the truck. So if the truck doesn't arrive every single night, people can stay and put all the stuff away where it needs to go, and it'll look like a nice, beautiful grocery store. But if we keep eating all these meals all this time, all of our people are leaving their post and having to be down in digestion. So that's all I can really input into this. I haven't necessarily had the experience of anything firsthand, seeing anything regenerate, but I am very interested in how the brain can regenerate, how people can recover from TBI, PTSD. There's a boy that goes to school with my son, and he had a terrible accident, and he was a perfectly functioning young man to now he is completely wheelchair bound. He can actually talk and carry on conversations still, but nothing works anymore for him, like his motor skills and everything. I have referred the parents to Dr. Morse. They, at this point, from what I know, they haven't done anything, but I'm very much interested in that. And then plus the part that I do with like the military and stuff with the PTSD and TBI, those are all very much things I'm very interested in learning about. And that's all I had to say on that.
I figured that.
Just making sure.
I was like, okay, I'll be quiet, see if that wants to add anything. Yeah, he's unmuted, so he does.
Well, I honestly, guys, I didn't see your post soon enough, Tony, that we were having a continuation talk this week. But then when I heard you message me, I was like, oh, well, I guess y'all did have one. But so I missed when I came in just a few minutes behind. I missed what was the specific question. I know y'all are talking about, how the brain can regenerate and recover from head traumas or injuries. But was there a specific question?
No, it was that Gary's friend had a brain tumor, and we were talking about that before we opened up the live, and I just wanted to hear more about it. That there can be times that surgery is helpful. Because I personally tend to turn away from anything that has to do with the allopathic industry, so not going there. But I wanted to, let people know there may be times that it can be helpful. Although, we are now teaching to prevent occasions like that, that even a brain tumor is forming. But when it has formed, what can be done then? That was actually what we were talking about. And about that, I was late with sending you the information tab, but it was last week that I asked on the podcast, are you guys, shall we do this again? And you all said yes. So I thought, okay, he knows.
Yeah, I remember that. I guess I didn't have it locked in my brain, but
Oh, okay.
I figured as much when I seen the messages from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all good. I know that we are gonna figure out something to talk about each week. Well, what I could add to this topic, and I won't, I'll keep it kind of short because we have covered a lot. Gary was really thorough with what he was talking about. So I'm going to bring up a couple things that I know of that can just add to what you guys have already been talking about. Is yes, of course, I believe firmly in what Gary was talking about how you need more electricity for the brain, because the electricity is very vital. I mean, of course, we talk about that's very vital for the whole entire body itself, but the brain especially, because the brain functions, it needs so much of its function off of that electrical charge needed for brain function, and sometimes you do need, as you get the body clean enough in the earlier stages, you do need to sometimes start incorporating some electrolytes of some types, which are minerals. That's why electrolytes are called electrolytes, is they are minerals that are electrified. And so that's why that I have heard stories. I heard this story of a lady and her daughter that they were going to an oncologist for a brain tumor or a brain cancer. I can't remember which one it was specifically, but they'd been going to them for a whole entire year and getting normal treatments and everything. And then they found out from somebody that even just simply blue-green algae, which of course, Dr. Morse is not a fan of the algae so much, as other green foods like alfalfa and of course moringa and stuff. But just that one green food and it having more of those electrical components because the chlorophyll and all the things that are in green, foods, they said that they found out from other people that it could help with brain tumors. And they asked the oncologist, and the oncologist said, "Oh, yeah, I've had several of my clients that have had good success with that, using that." And they both asked him, they said, "Well, why didn't you tell us about that a year ago when you came to see us?" And he said, "Oh, I can't tell you about it because I'd lose my job. But I can answer your question if you ask." And see, that's the way that the system works, is that, by legal law, they can't recommend and tell you about things that are not drugs, that are natural. Now they can sometimes tell you different supplements and stuff to use, but that's just the way that the medical system works a lot. And so, when I think of that, and then I think of how much the electricity is needed from some of these plants, that's in a different way than some of the fruits, and stuff that we use. Because like Gary was saying, fruits are cleaners, as Dr. Morse has told us many times, and greens are builders. But there is certain cases for certain people that you have to modify things a little bit as you go on their journey of healing and regeneration. And sometimes there'll be different stages where they might need some of those really easy to absorb. You don't want to do some of the more harder to digest and absorb green foods, which you want to really make sure that you're getting either moringa, which is a leaf, that's easy, or you want to, if you're going to do one of the grasses, you want to do the juice of that grass, not in it. And they do make juices like barley juice, that's dried into a powder, that you can do that too. But again, these are for special cases. And of course, alfalfa is wonderful too, like Dr. Morse recommends. And that's why there's some people that they go through on their detox journey, and they want to use the superfood blend that Dr. Morse has. So it'll give them a little bit of extra energy and feeling that the fruits aren't giving them while they're doing the fruit protocol, and that's the really the only exception that Dr. Morse would really give people on what they could do if they have a really, serious thing going on where he really wants them to stick to all fruits, And so those are some of the things that I agree with on there, but you have to always go back to, again, like Gary was talking about, you have to go back to absorption, because if you don't fix the four processes of the body, then you can't really absorb the herbs, you can't really absorb the minerals, you can't really utilize those things because you're not absorbing them, and you can't eliminate them properly if you're not doing all the other steps too, so, and you can't eliminate your other trash properly either. So really, it goes back to at least getting the channels opened up and draining their waste, before you start adding in other things that possibly could, assist, with the semi supporting or building while you're doing cleaning. Because we have people all the time that they're like, well, can I do some building things while I'm doing cleaning? And I'm like, well, you can do somewhat, but it's hard really for the body to do both at the same time. It's better to do the cleaning first and then do the building things later. But some people, they're so weak and so depleted and so exhausted with their body that their body needs a little bit of that charge to bring them back some so they can even get to the state where they can eliminate properly. Because that's why it goes back to, you have to check the person's metabolism. You have to check their thyroid function, because if they don't have enough metabolism from their thyroid, which also goes back to their master glands, the hypothalamus and the pituitary, if they don't have enough function in those areas to help have a healthy enough metabolism, then they're not going to even process their vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. They're not going to have enough function for digestion. They're not going to have enough function for the detox process. They're not going to have enough function for a lot of that. So you have to start helping these systems become stronger. But see, you have to get some of the trash out of the way so that these systems can start to function better. And so we have to remember that, yes, the lymphatic system is very important for drainage of all of those waste. But what I've physically seen from people sharing their experiences, I meant uh, visual, it's not actually physically seen it, but I'm talking about experience through people's testimonials and also with myself and my experience, is that a lot of times the elimination of digestive waste, which does turn into lymphatic waste, because that, besides the digestive waste coming out your colon, sometimes some of that digestive waste goes into the lymph system too. And that's why I really kind of think of the lymphatic system and the digestive waste that comes out is kind of like they're both equal as important. And so that's why you have to really start getting the bowels to start eliminating well, so that the lymphatic system can start eliminating well. And then the more the lymphatic system starts eliminating well, it helps the bowels to eliminate better. And then when those two get going really good and you start seeing the waste coming out, and then you support the kidneys, and then you help the central trunk of the body to drain, then that helps the head to start to drain. And see, that's what happens for a lot of people, is that they don't start that process of helping those two other areas to drain properly so they can get enough waste to start coming out. And then it will cause a suction effect that will cause the brain to start to drain. And see, that's what a lot of people they struggle with, because they've had for so long so much head congestion, and build up in their head, that it's so congested in their head, their neck, their shoulders, their upper lymphatic system, that it's still stagnant from being able to drain down to the middle and the lower. So see, that's why you really got to start getting stuff to drain, and things that'll help to astringe and pull on that stuff to drain. But also you need to do stuff like light rebounding. You definitely need to do the deep breathing exercises, because that's going to pump your lungs. And the more you expand and contract the lungs, that pumps the lymphatic system. But again, you want to get the lymphatic system draining before you start doing a lot of that movements and things to pump it more. But these are things that can help keep that stuff flowing, and then do things to help get your sinuses flowing, get your, head, even like, just like teas, just drinking mullein tea that's hot and breathing the steam. That's very good for helping the sinuses to drain. So that's going to help the head to drain. And then doing the humming and the deep breathing exercises, that's going to stimulate the vagus nerve in the head. That's going to help the nervous system in the head. And the deep breathing exercises where you hold you hold the breath without any air for at least a minute, and then you breathe in a full breath of air, and you hold that for at least a minute. And what that does is that compresses the pressure in your head in a way that not only does it help your nervous system and the nerves, but it also helps the mitochondrial activity to increase, and it helps the pineal gland, to compress its crystals and helps it to work better. So those are things that can definitely, help the head to start to function better and help it to start to drain better. And then that will help the master glands to work better. And then that will help the thyroid and the adrenals and all the rest of the system to work better. But you also have to remember one more thing that I can add that is very important is that you have a center of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is the emotional center below the master glands, the hypothalamus and the pituitary. And the pineal gland is more moved towards the front, of the brain more than the other two glands from the way that I've interpreted the diagram of the brain. And so when you do those when you help those areas of the amygdala to become more calm because it's the emotional center of the brain, but you first have to make sure that you're not feeling any major signs of depression or sadness or anxiety or regret or remorse or shame or guilt in your heart. Because if you're feeling it in your heart, then it's going to your head and it's affecting your amygdala, and then that affects your master glands. And then that just sends a whole message of worry and fright to your brain. And that's where you hear people that tell you all the time, especially before they go to sleep, they're like, I'm too much in my brain. I can't get out of my brain. I can't quit thinking about the things that I need to do, the things that I didn't do, the things I wish I'd have done in my life, the things I still want to do in my life. They can't shut off their mind. They can't quit thinking before they go to bed. And they haven't practiced enough on how to have control over your mental faculties and how you use your brain and how you can stop your brain from that monkey mind or that brain from controlling you because of bad habits. But it all takes practice to change that. And that's the big problem for a lot of people is that they've spent so much time of their life because they watched other people, they mimicked other people doing the same things, like their family, their parents, their brothers or sisters, their relationships with other people, things like that, that got them in a pattern of thinking just in ways that's not the best for the health of the brain, the emotional centers of the body, and especially the heart. Because again, going back to the heart math people that in California that show that the heart puts off the most energy of the body and it can be gauged 7 to 10 feet away from the body. Well, your heart can definitely affect the quality of your brain. And so you have to have so much love and compassion and gratefulness in your heart that it helps your emotional center in the brain. Because remember, energy and motion is what emotions are. That's what emotion stands for, energy and motion. So you have to start doing things to help increase that feel good emotions so people can get out of their brain and they can literally start to relax. And that's why the humming is so important. Because I think it was you, Gary, and you were posting something recently about how
Mhm.
humming can stop the brain from overthinking or just thinking,
Yes.
period. And it's the same thing.
Yes.
It's the same thing as if you tell yourself inside your mind, breathe in while you're breathing in, and you tell yourself in your mind, breathe out while you're breathing out, you can't think about any thoughts. It literally shuts off the mind from overthinking. And what happens when you overthink? You breathe shallow. You don't breathe deep enough down to the bottom of your lungs because you're not aware, you're not focused. You're so in your thoughts and you're so in your mind, you're so in that state of fear, of worry, of shame, of guilt, whatever those thoughts that are really taking you over and controlling your mind. They're affecting your breathing, they're affecting your nervous system, they're affecting your metabolism, they're affecting your glandular system, they're affecting all of your systems. So that's why that they would talk. There's actually a physician that he would talk about that a lot of times in his experience, it starts with the mind and goes down because the mind is so powerful, but Dr. Morse, I even asked him about that. It's called Herring's Law of Cure. I even asked him about that because that was in Dr. Jensen's book, and Dr. Morse said, well, I don't necessarily agree with that premise of what Dr. Herring said, because I think that it starts in the elimination channels and then it goes to the head, and then the head works its way down. And I said, I can see both points, because I interpret Herring's law of cure as meaning it could be either mental issues of the brain as well as physical issues of the brain. So it's just different ways to interpret the information. And let's see, I guess in case anyone doesn't know, offhand, let's look just right quick. I'll show you Herring's law law. Just to read it to people so they'll know what it is. Let's see. Herring's law of cure. Let's see if I can find it. Because I have it in my book, but anyways, I can't find it at the moment. But it just pretty much means that dealing with the head and the way that the body works. I'll see if I can find it as I'm talking, and then I'll pass it back to you guys. But those are some of the main things. Yeah, Herring's law of cure. There it is. Those are some of the main things that I can think of that I could add to what you guys were talking about how it's really important to look at all the different factors of the individual, but most certainly you want to look at how much level of trauma, drama, and hardship they've had throughout their life. And you want to really ask them, do you dwell on those thoughts a lot? How much positive thoughts a day do you think of versus how many negative things do you think of? And especially after they've got over the age of 40 or 50, and they're in their midlife, because that's why that you hear so many people say they're having a midlife crisis and all these things, is because it's kind of like you get to the midpoint where you're like you're losing that youth factor that you had, and you're getting to the stage where you're starting to have to come to terms with the fact that you're getting older, and you're looking back on how you spent those earlier, what we call the younger, more vibrant years of our human existence. And so, a lot of people, they're still carrying baggage from their past, and they haven't let it go. And they don't understand that the past is the past. It's dead. It's not alive. It's there to only teach us what we need to learn from, and to, when we have memories to remember back on the past, that's just to remind us how we can improve and be better people in the future, or the next now. And that's what gets people so caught up in time, the illusion of time, and they forget that it's really only just the now we ever experience. The past was just the now, and the future is the now. And that's a big one for a lot of people, because they get so stuck in their head that some of these people, you're not really affecting them psychologically and mentally as much as you think about in the relationship. They're doing more of the damage to themselves by the things that they're saying to themselves on a daily basis, like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I need to be better, or they put so much pressure on themselves just from the way that they talk and they think about themselves and their lives. So that's some of the things that I can add, because it's all how we use these body parts and these organs and our brain on how easy it is going to be to recover. Because last thing I'll mention is Doctor let me think, let me get his name in my brain. I can turn around. Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's talked a lot about neural path regeneration, and like neural plasticity and all those different things. And then that also brings up the point of even sometimes, believe it or not, when people have major trauma to their brains and different things, and even their life experiences, well, they'll have PTSD or CPTSD. There's different levels of trauma that it's hard for people to get over sometimes. There's actually research that shows that psychedelic mushrooms in microdosing is actually helped to cause neuroplasticity, and that helps the brain to release and to rewire some of its patterns that it's been having. And they've already done like scientific proof and studies to show the different brain waves that people have. And there's just so many different techniques you can do. That's why I I even love the heart math method because of the method that you go when you do it. It helps your breathing patterns to become more stable and more relaxed, when you do their techniques that they have in there. And then that helps the nervous system and that helps the brain, and all those things, So those are some of the things I can think about that I can add to what you guys were talking about, and yeah, I'll pass it back to you for now. And then when I find the full Herring's Law of Cure and the quote from Dr. Herring, I'll mention it in case anybody else was curious about what it was. But go ahead, guys. I'll pass it
Okay,
back to you.
thank you, Ted. What is actually related to what you were saying about cleaning your body? There are a lot of people who go on very long juice. Well, you cannot call it a fast; it's more a feast. And beyond 30 days, even up to 100 days. And I know Dr. Morse is more about eating your fruit instead of juicing them. And from an hygienic point, you would say no, absolutely no juicing because you don't get the whole fruit. Now, what do you guys think of that?
So I'll jump in. So if you're juicing, you're not getting the fiber, basically. And what a lot of people say is you're getting all sugar. So when you do a smoothie, you get the fiber, and it's actually slowing the digestive system down. It's involving it more. Like melons are a really fast cleanser, and because they're mostly water. So if we did a water fast, it would be a lot faster. I've done a 36-hour dry fast. That was interesting, and how I maintained. I didn't want to eat for that whole 36 hours because I binged watched for 36 hours when I was awake, uh, food eating contests. And it was so gross it made me not want to eat. So that was my motivation, not to eat. But at the end of 36 hours, because you can't even brush your teeth, nothing. So at the end of 36 hours, I was pretty well ready to
Now, would you say that it would, because they are doing this to get rid of the mucoid plaque, and I've been told that a lot was eliminating, and but I wonder, are we really doing damage to our bodies by doing it this long? I mean, you go with however you feel, and right now, I mentioned this because one of my clients is doing it long term. And she feels great. She does her walking. She can do everything. She's on watermelon only. So that is already very strong. And I think she's over 30
yeah.
days now.
Wow.
So yeah, and I always say, listen to your body if you can do it. But sometimes it's like, should we? Because it's not really a natural thing. But, our bodies have been so messed up with so much junk inside. And also heard about that mucoid plaque. It doesn't even exist. Well, I'm absolutely 100% sure it does exist, and we have seen it coming out. But is that the best way? I mean, I've done water fast when I was in my 20s for 5 weeks, and the second week already had a lot of junk coming out. I mean, that was just black what came out. The third time I did it is 12 years ago. The second time, 12 years ago, and no mucoid plaque at all. And I did it for 42 days. And
Wow.
the last time was 22 days, was also only water and no mucoid plaque. So I think it also depends on what level of health we are at. Now, I've never been a meat eater, so maybe that makes a difference.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, meat will putrefy. People are passing gas and it really stinks. The more it stinks, the more putrefaction they have in their intestinal tract. So it's just sitting there rotting, basically.
Yeah, and we used to laugh about that, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want
So,
to say something real quick. I am going to jump off real quick, but there was a comment in the chat too. I hope you kind of get to about colonics and enema as well too. But
mhm.
I just want to say thank you so much, and I will finish listening to the rest of this. But so much love for you all, and I am going to jump off now.
Well, take care,
Bye, sir.
Sarah.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Sarah. Love
Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Love y'all. Bye bye.
So on the mucoid plaque, I mean, we see it. People can deny it, but people deny a lot of things. But when you're doing an extended fast, so to me, that's over 10 days. You're putting your body under a lot of stress. It's under stress even in the 10 days. And the first 3 or 4 is really stressful mentally and physically. You can have a cold and flu-like symptom, and people don't see that as helping them. As far as like opening the lymphatic pathways, skull cap and something to help your body relax. This is big when Thad mentioned Joe Dispenza. I'm a huge Joe Dispenza fan because people go there, they're not changing their diet. They're not changing their mental diet, they are, but not their physical diet. And there was a person that went there, then he had over 50 tumors in his body, and most of them are in the brain. But as soon as he started to breathe, and he was going through the course, this is a 7-day retreat, and they were going through the retreat. By the time they got done, there were no tumors left. Because as we relax, the lymphatic system can open. The tension in the body, wherever that stress is in the body, whether it's depression or anger or something that's causing the body to tighten. These are the things that will help open that up, which is the juices, the fruits, the berries, the melons. I mean, as you all know, I'm a huge Master Cleanse fan because it costs so little and it is miraculous what it will do to help your body clean itself. And it's in the fruit category. So Dr. Morse did a 10-day Master Cleanse, and the whole group did it, and they loved it. So that's really important that we understand not everybody can do a 100-day juice fast. It's just not possible. Their body is not designed to do that. So when we see that and we go, yeah, I'm going to do a 100-day, they're not listening to their body. The mind is taken over, right? And if we could think ourselves well, nobody would ever be sick. Healing is a feeling. And to communicate with our body and learn what it is trying to share with us is how we're going to regenerate it. So cleavers will open up the lymphatic pathways. The skull cap, ginkgo, these are all upper circ, brain and nerve kind of things. Chamomile, will help the body relax, because I've been to one of Joe's 7 days, and it's all about the breath. It's all about the understanding, and it's all about frequency, right? So as every dis-ease is a frequency, and when we raise our body above our ability, raise our frequency above that, it can no longer exist. It has to go away. And his seminars are absolute 100% proof that that is true. Is it true for everybody? No, because they can't let go of their stuff. Their past. They're bringing it into the now. And in the now, if you can let go of all that stuff, your body will realign itself and rebalance itself, which is what happens as we're learning. But sometimes we learn too many things, and we're trying to accomplish something that our body's not ready to accomplish or couldn't accomplish at all. I just find it fascinating that we're all the same, but we're all different. You know, this is a machine, energy producing machine that filters everything. Everything that goes in here, this is pre-digestion. And it goes in a tube that runs all the way through us. And it's the only thing in the body that has an inlet and an outlet. So it's really not, it's in the body, but it's not part of the body in many ways. That's hard to grasp, I know, but as it goes through the tube, that's where everything is happening. Everything is digesting and is pulling everything apart. We think we eat an apple, that the apple is helping us, and it is. And when I was a kid, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, now, since we don't hear that anymore, I've kind of adopted a lemon a day keeps the doctor away. Through proper hydration, you put crystals in it, which is just a few things of Himalayan or Celtic salt. And I know Dr. Morse is not a big fan of that, but it will help us get over the fatigue because it's taken a lot of the pressure off the adrenals. And when our adrenals get weak, we get weak. Our body is like, okay, I'm 73 right now. I do not have 73-year-old lungs. I don't have a 73-year-old stomach or kidney or liver, because it's constantly updating itself. It's replacing, regenerating itself. And when we get sick, it's degenerating itself. And the difference is our understanding and our ability to know what our body wants, because it's like a petri dish. It has its own frequency, has its own vibration, and what goes in that petri dish, our body, is what either maintains or destroys our health. And if we keep listening to scientifically proven to be good for us, they've been doing that for 100 years, and we're getting sicker and sicker. We have less and less energy because we're not breathing. We're not hydrating properly. We're not getting the proper nutrition, even with fruits, berries, and melons, because they're picked so early. You know, it's in that last 2 weeks that it really gets the sugars and the flavor and everything that makes us go, oh man, is that fruit good? That's what's missing in it. And after they pick it and it ripens, it's more of a fermentation than ripening on the tree. And the best way to eat it is to take your shoes off, because this is what all animals do. I know they don't wear shoes, so they don't have to take them off. They walk up and they eat right from the plant. And that's a complete circle. The electrical charge through your teeth, because your teeth are electrical, the digestive juices, and you're grounded to the earth, and it's still connected to the tree. It is a circuit that is so powerful. It is incredible. And that's why wild animals are so strong. They're only eating wild plants. They're only eating wild foods.
My neighbors would love it if I eat my mangoes directly from the
Well, we would look a little odd, yes. But maybe you can get one of those military blankets where you disappear into the background and so you can and nobody can see you.
Like
But-
the Harry Potter cloak or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That'd be something. Hey guys, I
And that
need
way-
I need to get something in before I forget, and that was about
Yeah.
selenium sources. And somebody asked what if there are any herbs that you can take instead of eating, because she had been eating these Brazil nuts, these really big nuts for many years, and it started to bother her. And I'm like, yeah, I can understand why. And so I started looking this up, and I have to admit, I wasn't even aware of this, but I'm going to read this. Herbal sources of selenium are burdock root, alfalfa, fenugreek, fennel, fennel seeds, catnip, chamomile, nettle, oat straw, yarrow, peppermint, sarsaparilla, lemongrass, ginseng, hawthorn berry, rose hips, and raspberry leaf. So that is already all the selenium, the herbal selenium sources. So you can make a great tea of that. In fennel seed, we drink fennel seed tea here, and chamomile and nettle. But the fruits, it's actually blackberries, raspberries, and strawberries are fruits that are high in selenium, with blackberries containing 75% more than other fruits, and raspberries and strawberries containing 50% more. Blueberries also contain selenium as well as other nutrients like calcium, copper, iron, vitamin A and E. And I think that goes for most of the fruits. But it was interesting that we only, in general, we only know about selenium source. Oh, that is Brazil nuts. I mean, I knew that when I was, in my 20s. You need the selenium, so you need to eat the Brazil nuts. Well, nuts are not really working well for me anyway, but it was not, like this needs to be a topic of discussion, but just want to get that information out. It's and I just Googled it. I mean, that information is out on the internet. Of course, you can, because I have a ton of herbal medicine books. Could find it. This was just easier. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to do a little research to see, what you can eat instead of. I want to go into a few other questions we had, and one was really interesting to me, and that was about citric oxide. Now I have to find that email again. Give me a second, because a minute ago I had it in front of me. I do. Okay, I will read the whole part. I have a good friend who is a neurological health coach, stem cell therapist, and dementia practitioner. She mentioned who she studied under. They had a protocol for reversing dementia. A major component of this, of course, is the diet. It's hard for us to have conversations about this diet because we differ in beliefs. However, she sent me this comment about juicing, which has me curious. Can you shed a light on nitric oxide? The comment, it is incredibly important to chew because it starts the chemical process to take nitrate from fruits and vegetables, released when chewing to create nitrate. You keep chewing and create nitric oxide. If you drink the fruits and vegetables, you don't produce the nitric oxide, or just barely a little bit. God gave us teeth to chew. You've got to have nitric oxide to get oxygen into your blood and then diffuse it from your blood into your cells. You got to chew your fruit and vegetables. Now, of course, you got to chew your fruit and vegetables. We can all agree on that. That is the most important thing to get with the enzymes working. But what she was saying about the nitric, as far as I know, nitric oxide is something in the soil that gets into the plants. And it is in the plants, but
I can
yeah, go ahead.
I can definitely answer this one. Is that there's one component that a lot of people are overlooking that is very powerful that I know Gary's going to be shaking his head agreeance with me is that your largest production of nitric oxide is breathing in your nose. But you can't be a mouth breather. You cannot breathe out of your mouth. Your mouth is for eating and talking. It's not for breathing. And the same thing at nighttime when you sleep. You need to use mouth tape, or you get in a habit where you don't drool, you don't snore, you breathe solely out of your nose, in and out of your nose. That's your highest production of nitric oxide. It's in and out of your nose. And then also you can eat beets. There's so many different great foods that increase nitric oxide production in the body. And beets are one of the biggest ones we sell at my parents' health food store. But the breathing is important, and that's why it keeps always going back to the breathing, because people seem to overlook breathing the most. Because it's such a core component of what it's one of the greatest simple fundamentals that we need. We need fresh air. We need proper breathing. We need fresh sunlight. I mean, proper sunlight. We need time spent in nature. We need air, clean air again for the body, to bathe the body. You need to wear at times the least amount of clothing possible so your body can absorb the air properly through the skin. Because so many times the clothing is keeping the skin from being able to absorb that the air, and stuff, because it's inhibiting it, it's smothering it, it's covering over the cells, and so that's a big one with the juice. I mean, with the nitric oxide consumption. Well, also too, anyone that you talk to that talks about juicing or eating smoothies, you're supposed to chew them. Even if you're not nothing there to chew, you're still supposed to do the chewing action when you consume those liquids, because digestion starts in the mouth. So you do that chewing action, while you're consuming those liquids. And then y'all were talking about, the pros and cons versus liquids versus eating the solid fruits. Well, the fruits do give you a small amounts of fiber, mostly soluble fiber. Now, of course, apples and some of your more fibrous fruits, they have a mixture of soluble and insoluble fiber, which is important. Fiber is very important. It's very important for your gut bacteria, especially. And the more microbes you have, the healthier you can be as well, because that's giving you a lot of your electrical charge that you don't even think about. We think about the human cells, we think about the care of the human body, but we don't never think about the care of the microbes that make up more of who we are than even the human cells. We're more microbes than we are human. So really we are taking care of this ecosystem called the meat suit or the space suit or the vehicle. So we're taking care of it holistically, and we have a symbiotic relationship with all bacteria. And that's why it's very important. I went to the dentist recently because I need to get some dentist work too. And they were telling me about how much it's very important to take care of the microbiology balance in the mouth, because some of those same bad bacteria that can build up in the mouth just from being exposed to the air and things we eat and stuff like that, it can cause other health problems. It can be a contributing factor. Now, of course, I had to go to a biological safe dentist to find out this information, because no normal dentist is going to tell you this, but that's just one of the key components that ties in with what we're saying. So eating solid fruits is beneficial because you get the fiber, but you need to go more towards the more fibrous fruits, and you need to incorporate some vegetables if you want to benefit the most from fiber, like celery. Celery has a more fibrous, in it, and then pears have more fiber. There's several different fruits and vegetables that have more fiber. But the reason why we juice is to give the body a break from digestion, because all of the energy that goes into digesting all the time can go into detox. When you take away that digestion burden on the body, it frees up so much energy, and it makes it so effortless for the body to absorb the elements from the juice. And that's another thing that people overlook, is the ease of absorption of the nutrition properties of the fruits and vegetables that you're juicing. And see, Dr. Furman, he even talked about that years ago. He talked about, they did a study, and they took people that were healthy and unhealthy, and they gave them a carrot to eat. And they found out that the healthy people with strong digestion, they absorbed about 30% of the nutrients from eating that carrot solid. But the unhealthy person only absorbed 3 to 5% of the nutrients from that carrot, because the fiber blocked them from being able to absorb the nutrients from the carrot, from the juice of the carrot, because that's where all your nutrients are mostly located, is in the juice of your fruits and vegetables, and that's again another reason why we juice. But then Dr. Furman said, you take an unhealthy person or a healthy person and you give them the juice of it, both the unhealthy person and the healthy person can absorb 80 to 90% of the nutrients, from that fruit or vegetable. So see, but you're also getting a higher concentration and a higher nutritional charge because you're juicing a larger amount than you can eat in one sitting. And see, that's another big thing that people miss out again on, and they're thinking of pros and cons of juicing versus eating, is that they're not thinking about the energy you're consuming, from all of that living juice that's so concentrated, and it's from so much produce, especially if you drink it right after you make it. Because like Gary was explaining, ideally, and it's so ironic, but this is true, most of your fruits, when they're at their peak ripeness, they're only going to last for maybe a few days, or even some fruits like over a few hours. Like I still have yet to try a wild pawpaw in my region where I live, because you got to beat the animals to it, or either you got to grow them yourself, because the best pawpaws, they drop off the plant when they're ripe. And the animals will beat you to it if you're not out there faster than they are. And that's the way a lot of fruit is that it's really only designed to let the plant give it to you when it's ready to give it to you. And then you pick it up and you eat it and consume it. I remember, and Toni, if I was you, I'd be hitting up the fruit and spice park every year, because the fruit and spice park down in Homestead, Florida, if you're down that far south, I can't remember where you are at in Florida.
I'm in Central Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, the Fruit and Spice Park, every year they have over 60 different varieties of mangoes that are growing on the Fruit and Spice Park. And you can go there and you can pick up all the fruit off the ground that you want and eat it on the spot. You can't take any out, but you can go around, and there's been several videos of people, even John Collier, he's a big raw foodist, vegan in our communities online. And he's been there several times, and he's walked around and showed you the different varieties and stuff, and how delicious they are, because it's a truly tree dropped ripe mango, and that's what's hard for a lot of people to understand about fruits and things, is that really it's designed for us to eat it. Like go out there and pick it and eat it on the spot, or bring it inside and eat it. Same thing as your leafy greens and your vegetables. A lot of those, they lose a majority of their nutrients after 24 hours of being picked, especially leafy greens, because they're so fragile. They're so tender. So that's another thing that people are missing out on, is that not only you're missing out on the nutrition and all that, you're missing out on the electrical charge that they had when they were connected to the tree. And as soon as you break that charge from the tree, they lose a certain percentage of that. So you're trying to really race to capture as much of that energy that's still left in that living fruit or vegetable or plant or herb or whatever it may be when you pick it and then you're consuming it. And then you guys earlier were talking about selenium. Is that another thing that sometimes we miss out on when we're understanding the different components of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in different plants? They haven't done enough study on herbs and enough on the different berries. Because, for example, bilberries and schisandra berries. Schisandra berries are amazing for the brain. They're amazing for the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. That's why Dr. Morse has them in his brain and nerve, and I think they're in his pituitary formula too. But schisandra berries are amazing. They're bright red, and they are amazing little berry. But there's so many berries that are medicinal berries that are not really berries we would eat, like actually eat berries, that are really not studied enough for the levels of nutrients that they have in them, that are superior to other plants. And so that's why we have to look at them. Even bilberries, again, they help to improve your night vision at nighttime. They help to improve your vision. And remember, your eyeballs are not really separate organs from your brain. They are a part of your brain. They're actually the brain that developed outside of your brain, because they're really a extension of your brain, so that's why anything that helps your eyes is going to help your brain too, so that's why there's several different wonderful berries. I mean, I have a huge list from my parents' health food store, and ones that I've researched is probably a good 10 to 15. I mean, it's saw palmetto, barberries. Barberries are amazing because barberries have one of the highest amounts of berberine. And that's a big supplement we sell in our store. That's the supplement or the extracted version of that component of certain medicinal plants. And the barberries is the highest, and then golden seal. That's why golden seal is so powerful. It has a lot of berberine, and then of course there is several other ones too. But barberries are powerful. Bilberries, Sandra berries, saw palmetto berries, hawthorn berries. Hawthorn berries are one of the greatest herbs to help the cardiovascular system. So that's why Dr. Morse talks so much about the berries. He just doesn't go into the full explanation of all the different berries and what they can do. So that's why, and there's just, and that's why I give the example that Ho Shu Wu, for example, that's a wonderful Chinese herb that helps repair your DNA. Well, why does it help repair your DNA? It has like 20 times more zinc in it than normal fruits and vegetables. It has like 45 milligrams per serving. Most of your fresh fruits and vegetables only have 5 to 6 milligrams, and so and then that's why you got to go back again to the superfoods, because also the wonderful goji berry. Goji berry is amazing too, and so there's so many of these things out there that really have not been studied enough, and that's done on purpose because the medical association doesn't really want that information to really be brought too much to the surface, because that's kind of their competing factor with their medicines, and that's what we see all the time in our health food stores, that they're all the time trying to threaten to, take away our access to the herbs, and they want to have control of how we can get access to them and all that. They've talked about that for at least 50 years now, since they've become more and more popular. But that's also why you got to get out there and learn how to wild harvest them, because when you learn how to wild harvest these herbs and also food. There's this wonderful guy I follow that he talks about how you can offset your cost of your groceries if you know how to wild harvest the plants that are found in nature for just food, much less for medicinal benefits. Because I mean, he's an amazing wild forager, and he just one of those people that he fell in love with it so much from a young age that it just become like his thing that he does. And he's from Indiana, but he's went all over the whole United States discovering, and he's successfully identified over 6,000 different types of wild edible plants out in the nature. And he has lots of videos where he just goes out into this field and he can pick enough for a whole meal just right there in the field, and it's amazing. And these are things that a lot of people, they have no clue. They're oblivious to that information. And like Gary said, those plants in the wild, they have not been messed with by man. They've not been cultivated by man. They've not been fertilized by man. They've not been messed with by man. So they're so much stronger because they're getting a better quality of nutrients, but also they're perennials. They have to have the ability to keep replicating and reproducing and coming back on their own to be able to survive, or to be able to continue that, the proliferation of that plant, and so that's why that, you really have to eat the foods and eat the plants and soak up the environment and the energy that is the most vibrant in this day and age, because so many of us, we've lost so much of our vibrational charge and our vibrational essence, that you have to go to, the higher vibrational, the higher nutritional, the higher medicinal plants that are out there to really see some of those benefits. That's why, man, it's amazing that the just normal standard American people that come in my parents' health food store, and they'll start taking a little bit of moringa for a little while along with their other things they're eating and stuff. And man, it's amazing the stories they keep coming back and telling us, because we can see from how much they keep buying it. I mean, and they keep telling us, yeah, I just feel better. And I'm like, well, that's because it's so much more concentrated that you may not be absorbing but 50% of it, but because it's so much higher concentrated, you're absorbing more nutrients than you would get from your normal fruits and vegetables. And see, it's like what Gary said earlier. It used to be an apple a day helped keep the doctor away. That's because they knew back then that not only that the fruit was more vibrationally and it helped the body, but also the fiber was very important. But also the apples grown 50 years ago were much more vibrant, much more healthier than the apples apples are today. So today, in order to get the energy requirements and the nutrient levels equivalent to one apple, you got to eat like 4 or 5. So see, that's what people don't understand too about standard fruits and vegetables, is that sometimes eating them whole, you're not going to get enough of what you need unless you're eating it in large quantities. And so that's why, again, juicing therapy can be so powerful for people. So what I tell people is that if you are in the crossroads and you're not doing a complete juice fast, then do a little bit of both. I mean, that's what you should really do all the time when you're not in a deep detox and you're not doing just juicing or just liquids. Just do a little bit of both, because the juices are so powerful also for helping us to have hydration, because you're getting so much more of that H3O2, that H3O, that higher form of hydration from water, than what normal like well water and stuff like that. But that's still important too, because that helps to wash away, and to help to be a solvent to accumulation of waste in the body as well for people. So those are some of the things that I can add to what we were talking about the different questions and people were talking about. And then I'll go ahead and answer that question that we had on the well, yeah, I guess I've seen we have some other people talking about. Oh yeah, and this person said, Deborah said Hoshu Wu, Shisandra, Goji, Chaga. Yeah, Chaga is amazing. It also helps repair the DNA in the body. It even helps with the melanin, the levels of melanin that you have in the body. They even say people that have what's that? It's not it's either vitiligo. I think it's vitiligo. It's where they have the patches of color missing, especially the melanated community. It actually can help them to regain and rebuild their melanin in their skin. But yeah, but it was a question up here about enemas and colonics. Enemas and colonics. See, that's what's ironic. In Dr. Morse's beginning book, he actually said that using them in a proper way can be beneficial to the body, because Dr. Jensen also talked about those a lot. But see, the problem is that people will get addicted to them, and they'll get addicted to that feeling, and they'll overdo it. They'll overuse them, and it will become irritant to the system because they'll abuse them. And then they'll start falling into the category of like doing coffee enemas and all that stuff, which causes major irritation because it's acidic. Yeah, it may stimulate the liver a little bit and stuff like that, but there's other ways to help stimulate the liver and with something that's not so acidic and so caustic to your colon. There's right ways and wrong ways to do it, and one of the best ways you can do an enema or a colonic, but it really would be an enema, is do it with the teas, like the Hilal tea, like Dr. Morse would say, because again, the level of absorption. Sometimes if your small intestines isn't absorbing a whole lot, you still can have a little bit of absorption in your colon and your large intestines too. So that's why doing enemas, and that's why they would give suppositories in hospitals and stuff with the tea, can be beneficial to help the body. And it can bypass digestion, And then also Dr. Jensen talked about using bentonite clay in enemas too as well, because that helps absorb so much toxicity and chemicals and pollution and stuff that makes it down to the very end of the colon. Because remember, again, I've talked about how the sigmoid, the very last section of the large intestines, its goal or its job is to remove the water away from the solid waste. Well, that concentrates the level of pollution, the level of toxicity, the level of ammonia, especially for your meat eaters and things like that, from the decomposition of the waste. And also, like Gary was talking about, the putrefaction of the things, and that's where again the water's there to help dilute that down to keep it from being as concentrated. So when you do again an enema or you do something that helps, it's really helping your sigmoid colon the most, because that's what's going to get washed the most. Because it's hard to get the water to travel unless you do a colonics or you do like a high gravity enema or high gravity colonics, where the water will get all the way over to your other side, which is your cecum or your ascending colon. Most of the water goes up into your sigmoid, your descending, and your transverse. and then you can get some water to go over on the descending and the cecum, but it's more challenging to get water over there, and that's another reason why even you doing enemas and colonics. Now you can with colonics because they're pumping it in you with pressure, and then when you tell them that that hey, it's getting a little bit too strong with pressure, then they'll release the valve and then they'll let it flow all out. But what that does, the reason why the colonic is a little bit more superior than the enema for some people, it depends again on the condition. Depends if they have Crohn's or colitis or especially ulcerative colitis, those kind of conditions, which the colonic therapist would tell people that, you may not need to do a colonic in that situation anyways. Now, if it's not real bad inflamed, it might help get some of that mucus and congestion out of there that's contributing to the inflammation too. But I'm saying in some situations you don't really want to do those because the nervous system and everything is so sensitive because everything's so inflamed. But I was saying though, the colonic again, the reason why it's beneficial more than the enema in certain situations is when you put the water in there and you pump it in and you get it up to pressure, that pressure, it makes the intestines stretch out a little bit, and it helps wash away that waste that's stuck in all the cracks and crevices that an enema won't necessarily get out very easily because you're not expanding that intestinal wall, that intestinal lining some. So, and then also you have so much dehydration in the tissues in those areas sometimes from all that buildup of crusty waste and stuff that it gets so stuck to the wall, that it causes problems in there, and then that's also why Dr. Morse talked about that. A lot of times with our intestines is we are not only trying to get the elimination of the waste and the pollution from inside of the wall, inside of the intestines where the waste accumulates, but also from the wall of those organs too, the intestines, because it's just like an artery with cholesterol. You know how cholesterol will build up in the wall? Well, the mucus and the lymphatic stagnation can build up in the wall of the intestines as well. And that's why Dr. Morse talked about, the lymphatic capsules that you take. They're very important they're astringent herbs that help to pull the lymphatic system from the wall of the intestines. And see, that's where Dr. Morse talks again about, in especially his older books, that the colon is one of the elimination channels for the lymphatic system. That's why you see mucus coming through the bowels, but then it also, the ones that he really talks about that are more, they do bigger job of the elimination is the kidneys and the skin, so that's part of it as well, so yes, colonics and enemas can be important and can be useful. You just don't want to abuse them. You want to be careful in certain situations if someone should do them or not, and you want to just do them properly, and you want to notice how your body reacts. If you feel a surge of energy and you feel better after doing it, then that was your body saying that it was beneficial. But if you do it and your body's like, oh gosh, I feel so drained, I feel so tired, that may have been a little bit too strong on your nervous system. Same thing as sometimes when people get in a sauna, or they get in a hot and cold plunge, like Dr. Morse talks about with the hot therapy and then using the cold sheet, to wrap around the body. It's the same thing. If sometimes it'll be so aggressive on the nervous system, on the reaction that the body has to it with the nervous system, that it can be overwhelming and it can make you feel tired and you just want to take a nap or sleep. Or for some people, it will energize them because they'll have such a release of toxicity and waste. That's why I've even heard, before I even knew about Dr. Morse, I've heard for years, we had people come in my parents' health food store that talked about every time their child would have a headache or constipation, they'd give them an enema and their headaches would go away. And it's because of the direct correlation between the transverse colon and the head, especially the sinuses and the brain flares and all that you see in iridology. It's all directly correlated with the transverse colon. And then partly too is the transverse colon is affected from the level of strength of your parathyroid, because you can have prolapsing. And when you have prolapsing and have all those issues and that weak connective tissue, that makes it harder to get waste to come through those areas too, because you're losing some of that connectivity to help things to move through there, And so there's so many of these things that are just tied in together. And that's why we can, to keep the conversation going for hours and hours, But I'll pass it back to you guys now. That was enough of my rambling.
You sure? Yeah, I had a question for Gary, and he talked about that on a podcast. I don't know which one, and that is about falling really fast asleep. What was
Yep.
your
So-
solution for that?
So the solution is to turn off your computers, your cell phones, everything for about an hour before you go to bed, because that blue light is daylight and it's shining right into your eyes. So your melatonin is off. So shut it off, put on some relaxing music, and just sit and relax, even if it's just a half an hour. Do your things you have to do, and then just start doing some long, deep breaths in through the nose, creating nitric oxide, which helps the heart and the arteries relax. It puts you in a parasympathetic state, breathing through the nose. And like Thad said, you hold for a minute or so, whatever's comfortable, and you just slowly exhale, and you give your body permission to go to sleep. I have a friend that was in Vietnam, and 15 years he's never rested. So I told him to do 10 of those. When he goes to bed, lay down, get yourself comfortable, and do long, very slow, deep breaths. And hold at the top. Give your body permission to relax when you exhale. And hold at the bottom and do 10. He's never made it past 5. He sleeps all night. Because a lot of our inability to sleep, because of our stress and being in fight or flight, we're shallow breathers. We don't have enough oxygen in our body for us to rest and really go to sleep, because we're not calm. So we have an oxygen sensor in our brain, and that oxygen sensor is trying to keep us awake. It's trying to tell us that we're low on oxygen and we need to breathe, right? So as we're doing that, and we're filling our body with oxygen, and we're relaxing the body, the mind. This is when you breathe in too. You feel your body expand and contract. Expand with each breath in, contract with each breath out. This starts to shut the brain off. When you're feeling the air going in and out, and you're feeling what your body is doing, that's when you actually start to relax. And the nitric oxide makes the heart and it makes the arteries more flexible so that they can expand and contract using less energy, because you're going into a low oxygen environment. That's what sleep is. It's a low oxygen environment. So we need to get that oxygen in there so that the brain doesn't trigger that oxygen sensor. It's no different. You have an oxygen sensor in your engine, in your vehicle. I mean, a vehicle is a mechanical version of a human body. It runs on carbon. It has to have oil, has to have water, has to have electricity, right? Has to have a way to get the fuel into it. And the more oxygen you can put in that engine, the more horsepower it will produce, which is what a blower on a street rod is. It's a big section that sits on top, and it has fins in it. And these fins are like a fan, and it blows oxygen down into the engine, increasing the horsepower. And we're no different, right? Anything that you can do, like walking and you're breathing through your nose, even humming, is creating nitric oxide. And this is a relaxer. It helps calm the body down. So when we're trying to go to sleep and our brain is racing, we have to tell it to shut off. I went through a whole thing when I had my businesses through insomnia. And finally, one day I changed my story. because my story was, I need to be to work. I need to get this job done. I need to satisfy these customers. And I had more customers coming in than I could, like, I never advertised, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I had a rare situation where people would come in and say, do you want to advertise in this thing? And I go, no, because all I would do is make people mad. I can't keep up with what I have. And they'd never heard that before. Well, I lived it, and it's not fun. And it's what burned me out eventually. But when I wasn't sleeping, finally, I changed my story to, this is my life. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. I was working 7 days a week as long as I could stay awake. I did that for 12 years. And eventually, my body started to shut down. I got allergic to the dust from the redwoods and all that stuff. But when I changed my story to, this is my life, and I need rest so I can get my work done and maintain its quality, all of a sudden, as soon as I laid down, I went to sleep. My breath changed. Take an animal like a dog, right? I think I talked about this in my video the other day. When a dog gets up, first thing they do is go, right, and they're stretching and they're doing all this stuff, right? And when they lay down to go to sleep, what do? They go over and they walk in a circle a few times. And actually, that's a safety thing for them. They need to know their environment, that they're safe to lay down. So they go around in a circle, even though we know they're safe. That's just a natural thing. And they lay down and they go,
Well, Gary, they're also making a bed, because if out in
Yes.
nature, when they were in the grasses, they would do
Yep.
that to flatten the grasses down, you know.
Yes. So when they make that, that's their signal to tell their body to go into rest, digest, and heal, and they go to sleep. And we need to do the same thing. We need to give our body permission to go to sleep. Nobody gives us permission to relax. Nobody gives us permission to rest. It's go, 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 go. If it's not 110%, you're out of here. And we get that in our body. It lives inside us. It's in our psyche, but it's also in our body, that we cannot relax. We cannot rest. We need to go and go and go. And there's people that give 110% for them. It's still not enough for the person that they're working for, or people that have Crohn's. It's all nervous. It's all nerves. It's lack of oxygen, and they're under so much, put themselves under so much stress. It's going right to their gut. You know, there are billionaires. You ask them how they did it. Well, I chew and swallow every deal before I do it, because the digestion tells them if it's right for them or not. Because they're listening to their body. Your body knows everything. If you take a lemon and hold it up to your solar plexus, right? That's your solar connection, as far as I'm concerned. And you hold that lemon up there and you say, is this good for me? And your body moves forward. It wants that. If it's a cupcake and it goes backwards, it doesn't want it. This is a quantum, an energy thing that we can use in our body. There are fruits that our body doesn't want. There are vegetables that our body doesn't want. And if we ask our body and we really get in tune with that, when you go in a supermarket, your body will pull you to what it wants. And it may not even make any sense what it wants, but there's something in that the body needs. And then the great story about that is Dr. Morse, one of his stories, when he was building houses and he'd been fasting, every time he drove by this little convenience store, he wanted a cupcake, not a cupcake, but a Reese's peanut butter cup. He said, I fought that for 6 months. Every day when he went by that, he wanted one of those peanut butter cups. Finally, after 6 months of going through this, he stopped, he bought one, and he said, I've never had a craving for it again. There was something in that my body needed at that time, and I was fighting it. As soon as I stopped the resistance and I surrendered to it, it did whatever it did, and he was fine after that. So there are tons of things in that our body's trying to communicate. And to be able to breathe through your nose, and a lot of people have a hard time breathing through the nose. They have to have surgeries, and for those, before you get surgery, go to a chiropractor. Dr. B in Philadelphia. He's more like a shaman chiropractor. The guy is amazing. I've learned so much from him because he doesn't just adjust. He teaches you what he's doing, and he does the Ayurvedic blood pressures where there are 3 spots and there's 3 layers deep. There's 7 actually, but he does 3. And I saw him do this one time. He was doing someone's blood pressure, and it's the whole system. Every system has a pulse. And he said, "Were you born with your umbilical cord wrapped around your neck?" And the president would jumped off the bench. He says, "How did you know that?" He goes, "There's just something in your pulse that's not balanced properly." And so he knew that just from doing this. I mean, the guy is amazing. So he adjusts people's deviated septums so that the air can start flowing in and out. And we have erectile cells in our nose. And one side will start to shut down and the other side will open for like 20 minutes, half an hour. And the erectile cells will start to close this side and this side will open. So the nose is a really intricate part of our energy building, relaxation, because it's working the diaphragm, the nose is, right? And we're massaging all the organs and glands. And as we breathe in, the diaphragm drops, the heart relaxes, the lungs relax, there's more space and get that rib cage working so that you get more room for oxygen. And most of the blood oxygen transfer takes place in the bottom of the lungs. So if we're shallow breathing, and the toxins are building up, we have less room for the air and we're getting less oxygen in the blood because the bottom is full of toxins. So we have a thing called the lion's breath that we do where we stick our tongue out and we exhale really hard in through the nose, head back, smile. And then when we say lion's breath, exhale, and there's in plenty of my videos, we stick our tongue out and we tap the body. So from the solar plexus to the belly button, that's the 4th lymphatic gate. So we're actually opening that gate. And there are 6 gates next to the neck, above and below the collarbone, behind the ear. This drains this side of the head. So above the collarbone, below the collarbone here, behind the ear. I have plenty of videos on this. And this drains this side of the head. And then we go to the 3rd one, which is where the roundness of the shoulder rolls into the chest plate. These are lymphatic gates. And if these get congested, things start to back up in the house, in the body. And those acids, if they're not able to eliminate it through the lymphatic pathways, start to collect around the cells, and the cells start to get sick. They start to lose their power because they're not being fed, they're not being hydrated, and there's no nutrients going into them. So they're losing their ability to communicate. And when they do that, the brain starts to make chemicals that aren't as strong as they should be. So it starts making a weaker cell and a weaker cell and a weaker cell. And then you get more and more dis-ease. Okay. And in the medical world, they don't want to talk about that. They put you on a pill. And as the lymphatic system gets more and more congested, they have to put you on a stronger medication, and then a stronger one, and a stronger one, and then surgery, and possibly chemo and radiation and all this stuff, when all it is a dirty lymphatic system. So the fruits, the berries, the melons, the vegetables, the breathing, 70% of our detox is through our breath. So that only leaves a little bit left, and that's movement. And that's getting 2/3 of our fluids are from our groin to our solar plexus. And we need to keep all that moving and keep it massaging it so that it can breathe, it can move. If you take a fist, we'll do it this way. Okay. If you take your fist and you make a fist and you go tighter and tighter and tighter, this is inflammation. How much hydration, nutrition, and oxygen do you think, as this gets tighter and tighter, is going to be able to penetrate that? It's not. But through breath and proper hydration and nutrition, getting the tissue around it to loosen up so that it can be a sponge again, so they can absorb and release. Okay. If you take a sponge, I've done this in other videos, you take a sponge and it's really dry and it's harder to rock, right? You can bang it on stuff and it will make a noise. You put it in water, it swells, and the water can flow back and forth through it. Well, this is what's so important about hydration in our body, is to keep things fluid, because if there's no flow, there's no go. Nothing is working properly. And it can be in one area or it can be in all the areas. So these are the things that are important to understand about breathing through the nose and the nitric oxide and keeping the body clean. And as far as the enemas go, yeah, I'm not a big coffee enema guy. And there are people that do enemas every single day. And now they can't go to the bathroom without doing an enema. And this is the problem, like Thad was talking about. This is the problem, that if one is better, then 10 must be great. We have to get away from that. If you do an enema, I don't know, once a month or twice a year or once a year, I mean, it's so superior to every single day. Don't do every day. And coffee enemas are stimulants. So you're stimulating that system. I get that. And I get that the Gerson group, they're big on coffee enemas to get rid of tumors. So I don't fight that, because they're getting results. And because they're getting results, who am I to say that it's wrong or it's right? I just don't think that we need to do as many as we do, as many people do. Just to maintain our cleanliness. There are people that don't shower every single day and they don't stink. So a lot of people, like there was a baseball player, a pitcher, a real famous guy. I don't follow sports, but I heard him in an interview one time. He takes 7 showers a day. And I'm like, but he's healthy and he's alert. So for his body, 7 showers a day, I guess, works. For me, I would not want to do that. Washing off all the oils and all the things that are on your skin to protect you, you know? So yeah, it's a weird thing. We have to listen to our body. The body knows, the mind gets in the way. This is why we can't sleep and why we're full of stress and why we have all these different things going on in our body, because we're thinking too much and we're feeling too little and we're breathing too little. And this is one of the things about breathing. Well, I already know how to breathe. I've been breathing my whole life. Why would breathing change that? And they're so convinced that they won't even try it. So rather than talk to them about breathing, I just go, and if I ask and they want to eliminate something in their life, I go, oh, okay. So let's start by doing this. And then I do 5 slow, deep breaths. I've had people they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And all it was 5 simple little breaths. And this happens like a lot, not just a little. So if you just take the time to do 5 long, slow, deep breaths, hold at the top, hold at the bottom, whatever is comfortable for you, it will change everything. I mean, it's crazy because it's a manual, it's an autonomic event is why we breathe. But if we're not paying attention to it, we end up shallow breathing. And
That's
just
right.
taking that and manually override that system, we can do that. And the other 2 pumps for the lymph are the balls of the feet. That's why it's so good to walk. We're breathing through our nose and we're pumping the lymphatic system from all the way from the bottom up through gate 6, up through 5, up through 4, 3, up to 1. And this is why laying down is so important, is sleeping at night and having enough oxygen for your body to perform properly. So
Well,
anyway,
also
I'm gonna
the
leave it.
Well, also the piston action of your leg going up and down, that's also
Yes.
pumping your lymphatic system, you know. And yeah, there's a couple things I wanted to add to what Gary was saying before we close it out, Tony, and then I'll give you the floor to do the close and everything. Is one thing I wanted to add to what we were talking about earlier about the brain that I just remembered that I wanted to tell people so they can remember is that there has been studies that have shown that the glymphatic system with a G, not with an L, the glymphatic system, the brain,
Yeah.
that the brain drains and repairs itself at nighttime while you're sleeping. And that it's a lot of times our beds are too level. We need to elevate the head of the bed some, but you can't. They say 6 inches is optimal, but you can't start at 6 inches because it takes a lot of adjusting for a lot of people. So you start with like a couple inches, and then go up to like 3 or 4, and then go up to 6. But they say just that little bit of elevation of your head, it helps your body to drain the lymphatic fluid from your head down to your, eliminative channels, which is your kidneys and your, eliminative channels. And so that's important for the brain function. And then also, if you have the ability to, and it's not real hot and it's not real cold, sleep with your window open. That's very important because you get fresh oxygen and fresh air coming into your house. And then you need to allow your windows to be open enough in your house on a regular basis just to, get some fresh air movement in there and help get some of the dust out of your house and keep it from being as stagnant. But that's also why you got to get out into areas of the woods and the forest where you can breathe the freshest air as well. But one thing I was going to mention that, Gary we were both me and Gary talking about the importance of the breath. Well, I wanted to give everyone a challenge, all the listeners that are out there. And I want you to understand that, the breathing is so vitally important and that I really call it the best, most important exercise you'll ever do, because that's how important proper breathing and proper breath function and proper lung function is to the vitalness of your health. I mean, literally it is. I mean, of course, walking and all the other exercises we do are important, but breath is life, So really learning how to properly breathe and doing it on a regular basis so that you can maintain the full capacity of your lungs is vital. And it's so vital, it goes beyond what most people realize. And here's an easy test that you can always test yourself to see where you're at, because it's one of those things, if you don't maintain it, you lose it. If you don't use it, you lose it. So you have to constantly keep maintaining the lung capacity that you can achieve through practice. I'll give you an example. Here's how you can test. And I got this from Dr. Batanko, the Batanko method. And he said how you can test how strong your lungs are is if you can sit comfortably right now, not doing any kind of preparation where you start breathing and prepping your lungs. If you can just start right now and you can hold your breath comfortably for a minute, if you can do that comfortably and not have to strain and not have to force it, then that shows you're pretty well with the stability of your nervous system and you're pretty well with the strength of your lung capacity. But if you take anyone that has high levels of stress, They haven't strengthened their lungs. They don't have good lung capacity. They can't. A lot of them go past 30 seconds. Some of them it's even less than that, and that shows that you have a weakness right off the bat. And you can always use that as a test to test where you're at in any kind of nervous situation, any kind of trauma, drama, any kind of accident or anything where you feel like you're starting to hyperventilate, or you're not breathing properly, or you're having the anxiety coming on you. You can test where you're at, and then you can use techniques to help you to get back that some. That's why Gary was talking about, and that's why proof is in the pudding, that when you help people to start to restore some of their proper lung function, or help their lungs to start to have some of the proper function that it should have had originally, but it was probably never established when they were young kids, because none of this stuff is taught to us from a young age. So think about how most people live their whole life never knowing how to breathe properly, because no one's educated on how to breathe properly. So think about how weak and how unused and how under functioning, or really no functioning, the lower half of their lungs are. I mean, I've even heard of people, they sometimes use these biometric scans that scans the body, and then they'll always tell you that there's a lot of lower lung weaknesses that people have on those scans. Well, that's just even confirming, because biometric scans is just testing the electrical current through your body, so it's just showing that you have a low electrical current in that area of your lungs. So again, it goes back to, the more you practice these breathing exercises, what you will notice is that it will increase your lung capacity naturally on your resting breath. You will notice you will be able to breathe deeper and more full, and it will actually reshape your diaphragm. It will restructure and reshape even your mouth, especially if you learn how to nose breathe and not mouth breathe, even at nighttime. Over time, over period, they've had people that have been able to change their diaphragm enough where they can actually breathe in and out of their nose. When Gary was talking about, that you don't want to always go get, those surgeries, because a lot of times it's just from improper breathing. There's been several people talk about this. There's even certain types of different techniques you can use. There's even certain types of straws that helps you swallow and helps you, your functioning of your swallow and your breath, to function properly, so that it can help your diaphragm to be on, in the right shape. Because a lot of people, they don't have the proper diaphragm, so they can get proper airflow through their sinus passages. But also, it's because their sinus passages have not been used and trained properly. Because the more you use it, the more you'll develop a better breathing through your nose, and you'll be able to breathe properly through your nose, and then you'll be able to breathe properly through your lungs. Because a lot of people, when they start the deep breathing exercises, they can't really do them efficiently through the nose and in and out through the nose. They have to do it in and out of the mouth. That's why even a Wim Hof and a lot of those breathing exercises, they'll start you off telling you to do it in and out of your mouth. But then when you go up to like the Botanko method and those, they tell you to do it in and out of your nose. But it takes some practice to build up your capacity to get to that stage where you can handle doing it in and out of your nose, and being able to take in full breaths in and out of your nose comfortably without having to force it, because you don't want to have to force anything. Just like when you're retaining your breath and holding your breath for full capacity, you don't want to force it. You want it to be comfortable and an enjoyable experience, because that's better for your nervous system, and so that's why I'm giving an example that when people struggle with breathing properly, a lot of times it's because they don't have the functioning. It's like, I was hearing some people saying that, people get burned in the sun so much easier because not only the level of acid stagnation in their lymphatic system and their skin, but it's also because they're not getting enough sun exposure, so their skin can become more resistant to the sun. It can become more stronger against the sun. It's kind of like, again, you can't just take someone that spent all wintertime indoors and then have them go out in the spring and then start getting, 5 and 6 hours of sunlight all day. That you can't do that, because It's the same thing as someone that ain't rode the bicycle in years, and then you want them to go ride 5 miles with you. You can't do that, and same thing with this man, this guy. He wanted his mom to do a fruit cleanse with him, and she only could last 3 days because she hadn't ate fruits in 5 years, not even the first serving of fruits. So see, of course, it goes back to like what Gary was saying, our nature, where we want to start running before we even learn how to crawl. And before we even learn how to walk, and you got to start, you got to work yourself up the pyramid. You can't jump and bypass a certain step. I mean, you can try to force your body to do that, but it's going to be much harder. It's not going to be as easy, and it's not going to be easy to maintain doing that, because it's so aggressive. That's why we have people all the time. Like I just had a message in the fans group on the Telegram where a person said, I want to start to do a juice cleanse. And I said, well, what have you been eating for the last month and the last 3 months? And he was like, I've eaten animal products recently. And I was like, well, you don't go into a 30-day juice cleanse if you've eaten animal products in the last 30 days, because that's not a proper transition that's going to be easy on your body. I mean, you can do it, but it might kick you in the rear end too, because it's too aggressive of a swap. It's too aggressive of a switch, from one extreme to the next. So that's another example of why we're trying to explain that it goes back to your lifestyle choices that you choose to do every day, because that's what really makes the difference. It's not what you do temporarily. It's not what you do periodically. It's not what you do sometimes. It's what you do consistently through persistent practice and discipline that really makes the difference. And it's just like anything. Even you look at any artist that has a passion for it, they are practicing that instrument daily, every single day. And it's the same thing with all these things. If you have a daily practice of deep breathing exercises, come back and talk to me in 30 days. Come back and talk to me in 3 months. Come back and talk to me in 6 months. Come back and talk to me in a year. And when you get to a year of doing it every day and you look back to what you were when you started, oh man, it's going to be a night and day difference. I mean, night and day difference. And you will say it radically changed your life, because I can stand on any platform and tell anyone that the thing that helped my anxiety and stress and overthinking and worry and fear the most was deep breathing exercises. And the second thing would be follow up the deep breathing exercises with meditation. When you deep contemplate about your life in a very positive way, and you focus more on the joys and the happiness that you want to achieve, not on the worries and the fears and the shame and the guilt of the past, you focus more on the things you want to do with the rest of the time you have on this planet, you're attracting more to yourself the energy that you're wanting to become, that is more positive and helpful for your existence, instead of continuing to perpetuate and to create more of the negative energy that you've been doing for so long, and you're in that hole or that trap. So that was the same thing when before you go to sleep. What Gary was talking about, techniques and things you can do before you sleep. Well, I was listening a couple years ago to Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of his old videos, and he was talking about that 5 to 10 minutes before you go to sleep is the most crucial what you're thinking, because that plants that energy into your subconscious, because you're in your subconscious state of mind when you're sleeping. Okay, well, when you plant that thoughts and that energy in the subconscious, that stays there in the subconscious the whole time when you sleep. And then when you wake up, you start your day in that subconscious state of energy. He said what you want to do is you want to fall asleep dreaming and focusing on the reality you wish to experience, the dreams and the wishes and the goals and the things that you want to try to achieve in your life. And then, of course, and that's why I tell people I like to do deep breathing exercises before I go to bed, because it literally, like Gary said, it literally makes you melt away into your pillow. I mean, like he said, sometimes you won't make it through the full round of all your, because I like to try to do 3 or 4 rounds myself. I don't do 5 or 10 or something like that, and especially before I go to sleep. But I noticed that, man, you go to sleep so much better. You breathe so much better. You breathe deeper. You breathe more efficiently. You don't have to worry as much about sleep apnea. All these things that are going on, and you're actually helping your body so much because you are increasing your oxygen capacity and the amount of oxygen you have saturated in your blood and your body before you go to sleep, and that does help. But also, what you'll do is you will take up more oxygen while you sleep because you have strengthened your lungs through that consistent practice. So that's why really in my book, and I love talking to Gary about this because he feels the same way, is that I think really and truthfully the maintenance of our spiritual, mental, and emotional and deep breathing exercises is even more important than the food you eat. Because
Mhm.
if you don't have those as your foundation, you can eat the foods all day, especially the healthy foods, but the fruits and the healthy foods are only going to bring up more of those weaknesses that you're struggling with, more of the mental, psychotic, emotional, mental, spiritual, all of that baggage. It's only going to bring up more of the weaknesses you have with your breathing and all of those things. So if you work on the foundation of what you are more of, which is more helping your spiritual maintenance, your spiritual well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, if you focus more on those things and you focus more on the things that helps to soothe that, helps you to feel grateful and alive and feel with so much joy to be here on this planet instead of looking like this is just such a suffering, miserable place to be, because you can look at the world either on fire or you can look at it as a wonderful opportunity to be alive. And so you have to try to focus on those things. And when you do that, you can continue to find joy in everything you do, even if it's something very challenging and something you don't want to do. You can still see what you're learning from that experience. You can still see what you're taking away from that experience. So when you start to look at that and you start to let go of all fear, because fear doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because what's the worst fear it can happen? You can die. Okay, well, that's going to happen anyways. So, and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. You can do everything perfect and you could still die tomorrow from something that's not even your cause. So, why have even any kind of fear over anything? And so many people, they're so fearful over the what ifs when, a lot of these what ifs you can't even control. You can't even do nothing about it. So it's kind of like you need to have deep contemplation when you're in these states of relaxed state of being. That's why I was saying when you're in meditation and deep breathing, because contemplation helps you to see beyond the chatter of the mind. It helps you to see beyond the over worry and thinking and fear of the things that you wish that could be different, instead of looking at it from a state of gratitude and appreciation. And what you'll notice is a lot of these things we're talking about are things that will strengthen your DNA. Anything that will strengthen your DNA will help your body to become stronger. It will help you to increase your longevity. And what does gratitude do? They've already proven, and I think it was Dr. Bruce Lipton that was talking about this. They've proven scientifically that having gratitude strengthens the telomeres of your DNA, the very ends of the DNA strand. So, see, it's just little things like that you have to bring to people's attention, because really deep down inside, if you do like Dr. Morse and so many people says, if you do enough soul searching, if you do enough contemplation, if you do enough inner work and have a good relationship with who you are and don't feel deep shame and you're constantly running away from that young child within and constantly ignoring and depriving that young child within, if you go inward, you'll find the answers you seek. That's why Dr. Morse and all the greats would say that all the answers you seek are found within, because that's your connection to the divine. That's your connection to God. You can tap into that connection of that energy to the great all, but you have to get the mind out of the way. You have to get the fears out of the way. You have to get the traumas, the dramas of your past out of the way. You have to get the unforgiveness out of the way. If you don't, you'll be blinded by it. You won't ever see it. You can show someone it 100 times. You can stand them at the foot of the Grand Canyon, and all they'll look at it is a negative way. They'll come up with all these 100 excuses on why they don't want to be there, why they don't appreciate it, why they're not grateful for it, instead of seeing the natural beauty standing before them. and it's because of how their mind is working and programmed, and I've had friends like that before that I had to stop being friends with. Had such a pessimistic outlook on life that,
Mhm.
they didn't think that negativity was bad. They were so stuck on that opposite side. When I would so much try to work. I mean, I would put so much of my heart and my effort into trying to explain to them negativity breeds more negativity. And they would argue with me and just try to say otherwise, because they were so stuck on that other side of energy and that polarity of attracting that, because they keep manifesting that. They keep creating that through their behaviors, their actions, and all those things, So that's why we put so much emphasis on talking about this, is because in our communities, we don't always talk about the deeper issues, because that will sometimes scare people away. And that's why you hear people all the time that say, oh, well, I can only last for 3 months or 6 months on fruit. And it was because the fruit was bringing up some of their issues they didn't want to address, some of their old traumas and fears and hardships they didn't want to face. They've been working too hard for all of their life to run away from that. So that made them feel uncomfortable. So what does humans start to do? They start to find excuses on reasons to stop that. And so what do they end up doing? They go to a suppressant agent, like an animal product or something to dull them out, a drug or a movie or alcohol, anything that's a major suppressant that suppresses that feeling of being connected to it all. And that's why people want to be in the matrix. They want to be asleep, is they don't want to feel that rawness of what it's like to be super sensitive, you know, where you can feel fear and anger and evilness on a way higher level, but you can also feel love, joy, happiness, and all that on a higher level. And some people, that's overwhelming to them greatly, because they've never experienced that ever in their life. And so that makes them scared, that makes them afraid, makes them want to run away. And so then they'll start, instead of having accountability and really being honest with people and being vulnerable, they'll deflect and they'll deny, and they'll make up excuses on reasons why they can't hang in there, or they can't keep going, or they don't want to do what you're telling them to do. And that's because it's getting too much to the root of their issues, and they're not ready to face that. So you have to come to a stage where you have to realize that we can only be the messenger to deliver you the message. You have to go on the journey, and you have to want it bad enough. And when we say that, we really mean it. You have to
Mhm.
want it so bad that you're willing to do it every day, even if you never achieve the goals that you would love to achieve. And you need to be okay with that, because you need to just say, I'm just doing it as an exploratory thing to see what's possible. I'm not having any expectations, because as soon as you have expectations, you set yourself up for disappointment. That's why even the Buddhists and all those people would say, desires lead to misery, because it can set you up for disappointment. When you need to just go with the flow and go with the ebb of life, and just the more you create things from a positive place, the more positive things will happen in your life, and you will attract more of those positive things. So you
And
have
that
to.
said, I'm sorry I have to interrupt
It's
you.
okay. It's okay. I
I
was
have
I was
another,
done
I have an
anyways.
appointment. Yeah, I have an appointment coming up, and I know you can keep going and going with all these
Yeah.
beautiful notices that we absolutely need to hear.
Yeah.
But we are way over 2 hours already, and
I know. I guess I got on an emotional, powerful rant of things that were
I
very
was
important on how to close it out,
I
and
know. I was
yeah.
wondering, is he breathing in between?
Well,
What you guys were saying about breathing, I was like,
yeah,
well, we need to be taught how to breathe. It's actually
yeah.
quite unusual, because you don't need to teach any animal how to breathe. They do it the correct way anyway.
And if you look at
Mhm.
a baby knows how to deep breathe properly. You can see their
Yeah,
belly
I
up and
mean,
down raising.
yeah, we can
But
talk about, what indoctrination there
yeah,
is,
exactly.
foods and
As soon as they
etc.
start to go to school, they start to shallow breathe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I can see that. And I was a mouth breather until in my teens. And then I saw a picture of myself with my mouth half open, and I thought, my gosh, you look totally stupid. And I became a nose breather, ever since. It was just, I don't know, I don't remember how I did it, but I do know that I was aware how silly I looked with my mouth half open breathing. There was a reason for that, but I managed to you could say, fix that myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, guys, I do have to go, and shall
Yeah,
we?
thank you for your patience with us,
Yeah.
Tony, because you can tell me and Gary like to talk,
I'm like,
Just a little.
I
Just
That's
a
was
right.
little.
That's right.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes I was looking to a way in, and I was like, nope, it keeps going and going, and everything that you say is so good that I want to hear it, and everyone should hear it. So you
Yeah.
absolutely make sense. So my question now to the both of you is, shall we continue next week?
Oh, there
Yes.
in my book, there's always more to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to close it out. I have to
All
go,
right.
and I'll see you again next week. And it was beautiful. I thank you so much. I didn't get to say much, but you did all the work for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you both. So till the
Love
next
you.
time. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
yeah. Much love to you, Tony. We'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye, Gary. Bye. See
Yeah.
you later.
See you, Thad.